Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Wednesday. We're moving right along with this week. I think it's going to go fast. Couple things to talk about today. We're going to have a little bit of a mosh. The first thing I want to talk about was on Monday's video. Thanks very much for chiming in on the toolbox organization. And also, you picked number 2 as the screwdriver you would like to see restored. So second place came into number 1. We're going to try and do number 1 today, because I don't have a lot of time today, and you know, I had a funeral to go to yesterday and things like that, so I'm running a little bit low on time, but I wanted to spend a lot of time on that number 2 screwdriver, so that would be Friday's video. Next up, I want to talk about one of the great things about getting older, and I don't know if this is the same way with some of you or it's just me, but you start to get your wonderment back. You know, it's funny when you're a young child, or you know, when you're a young boy or girl, I guess, you find everything is wonderful and amazing, and it just the world is filled with wonder, and we kind of lose it when we get middle-aged. We lose a little bit of that. Things become kind of doled out and blasé, and we become jaded, so to speak. And then what's nice is as you get older again, you start to pick up that, I don't know why, but we start to pick up that wonderment again. And I look around and I'm so amazed. I mean, you know, birthday cakes and little things in life that were such a big deal when we were kids also become a big deal when you get older again, you know. One of the things for me was trucks, you know, when you're a kid and you're driving in your parents' car and you see a big truck or something, a nice truck, and you're like, you know, you're pulling your arm up and down and to get them to beep the horn. And again, my dad was a truck driver, and I drove a truck when I was younger, so I still find trucks amazing. And so today I was getting gas and I saw this beautiful tow truck, and it was called a Hino. I didn't know at the time. I looked up the insignia. I had to do a little research on the company, because we don't have much of them around here. I know they're big in Europe. I know my buddy Reggie, who's a truck driver, I'm sure he's driven many of them. But it's a Japanese company, and this tow truck was just so nice. And I was looking at it, and it helps that the gentleman that was driving it was a real expert driver, and he backed this truck into one of the garage bays in one shot with no problem. And I went over and talked to him, and a really nice guy, and I said, what a beautiful truck. And I said, you know, it's heavy duty, and I just liked it. So tell me what you think. Do you ever find that amazing? Like, you know, like trucks or trains or things like that we did when we were kids, and then again when you're older, you know? Isn't that something? Okay, so today, for the first thing I wanted to start off with was, you know, I remember I bought some of those wooden cigar boxes a while back, but I also like the cardboard cigar boxes because of the advertisement. My grandfather used to smoke cigars, and like I told you, all kinds of cool things came in cigar boxes. But when I was putting away the wooden ones, I was next to some cardboard ones, and I said, let me show you some of how interesting some of the old cardboard cigar boxes were. Now, many years ago, cigar smoking was much more popular than it is today. It was extremely popular, and a lot of people did it. So there was a lot of these boxes around from years ago, but they also got thrown out with the trash and whatnot. But I think what a lot of people like about these is I think it has sentimental value, like it does with me. Again, my grandfather smoked cigars, so there was cigar boxes around the house, and if I had a hobby or something, I would put it in a cigar box, and it was just a cool little thing. But what's interesting is, unlike the wooden ones that I bought at the flea market, these here were lesser priced cigars, came in the cardboard. You know, they weren't sealed as well, and they were a lower quality cigar, which is what my grandfather smoked, because we didn't have a lot of money and stuff. And you could tell here, like, these here, you could see here, they were 15 cents or 2 for 25. And this isn't really a very old one. But look here, this factory smokers here, these were 5 cents, you could see. And again, the box. But I guess what I found, so this is the kind my grandfather usually used to. We used to have a lot of these around the house, the King Edward. Because I remember this gentleman. King Edward the Seventh. He was always around the house more or less, so I remember his face. But this one here I found that is one of my favorites here, and that is the is that Roytan? I don't even know how to pronounce that, but mild cigars. But what I liked about this box here is that the advertisement on the box, okay? The colors, the way it was laid out, and here's my favorite. When you opened it up, because remember, these cigar boxes, you'd have the cigars here, and they would display, and you could see here, it looks like somebody had crayons or something like that in here, you know, at one time. So, yeah, like I said, they were used for everything, and look at that cool advertisement, you know? You could see here the cigar, and it says the hole in the head, no biting off the ends, because with cigar smoking, a lot of times you had to, you know, gnaw off the end so that you can get a draw from your cigar. And I guess these had a machine punched hole in here that eliminated that you had to cut off the end. So that's cool advertisement, isn't it? And I always thought that, you know, one thing about the cigar smokers, things like that, they had a lot of cool, and pipe smokers, a lot of cool accessories went along with that hobby. So that's why I always liked this cigar box. But the cardboard ones I enjoy just as much as I do the wooden ones. Okay, for today's project, we're going to do a little bit of a warm-up for Friday's. Friday, we'll hit this beautiful 660 that everybody wants to see done. We'll try and do an over-the-top with this one. This one here is the B&S company. You can see that, made in USA, number 22. Now, a lot of people would want to see something put in here, and with some of the other ones I come across that have no writing in there, I might do that because to see what it comes out. But with this one here, the challenge for this screwdriver here is it's kind of an industrial looking screwdriver, so we want to make it look industrial, and B, here's the challenge, is the tip. You can see here, Phil ground down the tip. I guess the tip is all mangled up, but, you know, look how thick it is and stuff. So we're going to have to reprofile this whole tip and not have it look out of place, you know, almost, and look at the sizes. I mean, it's a substantial, heavy-duty screwdriver. Again, the edges here, you know, we want to, a lot of them are chipped up. We want to see if we can get the edges nice and smooth. Get the back, you know, we always want to deal with the back, get that nice, you know, so it looks good. But again, here is the challenge. We're going to keep all the facets the way they are and still have this tip where it doesn't look, I don't have any screws that have a slot that wide. So let's get started on this. I think it should be a little bit of a challenge. Now, here's our post-wire brush evaluation, and what we did, we just got in the handles here where there was some rust left over or whatever. Phil might have put a coat of shellac on here, whatever, but we ground all that off, and so now we have it nice in here because I want to maybe make this kind of a texturized black in there with the, you know, this being polished on the edges. I think that'll look real nice, but we didn't touch the tip of the wire brush because we're going to have to do some serious grinding over here because of, you know, the texture of the metal. You see that's just bare forging, you know, and beating on over the years and whatnot. So we'll see what we can do with this. But again, remember that the tip, and it's also not quite straight, so we're going to level it off and let's see. Okay, we got about 25 minutes into this screwdriver, just trying to get this tip down. Now, a couple things you have to think of. You have to have it balanced here. It's got to be equal on both sides. You always have to be looking. I drew a line, a center line down before I started to see where I'm going, so you don't take too much off one side than the other. The other thing is, you can see now this is a rough grind. You see all them facets from the stone? You know, we're using the grinding stone on that flap disc, not yet a flap disc. And this is right where we want to be. You see, we got it down a little bit now. Now we're going to take it to the belt sander, use that and curve this a little bit to give that a nice look on here. And then we'll work the rest of it. Now we have to work these lines too, but you see, it's just, this is the important part, getting this thick part down so it doesn't look out of place. We might have to taper it a little bit. Now, once again, we went back to the belt sander, but you can see it leaves a lot of vertical scratches on there, scratches going up and down, and we're not quite at the thickness we want yet, but we're getting close. Now we're going to use the flap disc. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is that these screwdrivers had a very good temper to them. They were built like tanks, and you don't want to lose that factory temper. So every few minutes, I'm 12 seconds of grinding in the water. 12 seconds of grinding in the water. You don't want to get these hot where you lose the temper. Okay, here's where we get stupid. Okay, everything's going good. I did the coat in here, the paint, right? It's all... But see, I didn't want this to be a glossy paint in there. What I wanted... You ever see that crinkle finish? Much like the toolbox that Tom Gunn just got. Nice Kennedy, that crinkle finish. They used to use that years ago. I wanted that in there, but I don't have any crinkle paint. And... I want to get this project finished, so what I'm going to do, I enameled it, okay? I used Rust-Oleum enamel. Now, what's one thing you can't put over enamel is lacquer, because what happens? It crinkles the paint. So I'm going to try the poor man's way of getting that finish. I want to dull it out, crinkle it up a little bit. I'm going to see if it works. Let's try it out. Okay, that worked good in certain areas, but it just wasn't uniform enough, so it didn't work. We're going to have to strip this down again and start over. Okay, note to self, don't try that again. It was close, it was coming. Okay, now what we're going to do is we stripped all the paint off again. Let's go back to the drawing board. Okay, you know my favorite part. Remember what this screwdriver looked like before we started. And we're calling this project done. You can see what we did here. Looks real nice, right? Got that nice, all the forging marks, everything out of here, and did it up real nice. Look how clean that looks. And this is what I was looking for. Kind of a texture in there, but without having that gloss in there. I wanted it to look real industrial. I started doing research on this when I first started working on it, and you could see here B&S company with the little triangle logo. That stands for Billings and Spencer. Okay, this is a number 22 model. Now, they're called their heavy machinist screwdriver. And when I was looking and doing research on it, I realized that these are a bit rare. You see the 21s around. The 21s was the same thing, a little bit shorter. This was the biggest one they made, the 22, and these are quite rare, as I've never seen another example on the computer. But the interesting thing about this is, that's why I wanted to keep this. I said, it is kind of a rare screwdriver. I want to keep it looking, like it would have come from the Billings factory. And I figured this is the way it would have come, from the Billings factory. But I looked on Alloy Artifacts, a great site for old tools. And what do I see? But I see one of these, 21, but same type model. And what color do they have in here? Of all colors, red. And I was like, oh geez, look at this. And you know how I put red in everything, and I said, well, I'm not going to put red in this because I don't think Billings would have put red, but apparently I think they did. It looks like it's original red in there. Billings, a lot of those guys keep their tools identical to the way they find them and whatnot. So anyway, I liked it. This is a rubberized paint, by the way. It was a gray. I tinted it to look like an industrial gray. Again, I wanted it that industrial look, it's kind of, and the tip, remember the tip, we had to work on that tip. This is the thickness that we wanted for this size tip, and it just came out really nice, again, all the, the facets and everything, all the rust is gone, kept all these nice. I like it. I really... These have grown on, especially this one, the Billings one, because you don't see these. Now, I do have another one or two of these upstairs, but they're the cheap ones and they don't have any names. So that's the one I'm going to put some kind of insert in. But for this Billings, it's just too rare for me to start filling it in with resin or any kind of scales or anything. So let me know what you think of this and what you think of my scales. So in closing, I want to special thanks out to Phil, another beauty from Phil out in Elephant's Trunk. Really enjoyed doing a couple of his projects this week, and this Friday we're going to be working on that 660. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.